Thank you very much for coming to our session today. And in case you're wondering, you are in the session entitled Strategic Sustainable Planning, Highlights from Pilot Communities in the Together North Jersey region. So thank you for joining us. We have on our panel three really terrific examples of people who are working together with us and with each other on this very interesting Together North Jersey project. After I give you some overview, we're going to hear from Freeholder Matt Holt, to my left, who is the chairperson of the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, and we have a project going on right now in Hunterdon and Somerset counties that he will be speaking on the Route 202 corridor. We are then going to hear from Valerie Jackson, also on my left, who is Director of Planning and Economic Development for the City of East Orange. Valerie's going to talk about one of our projects that we're working on in Essex County along the Morrison-Essex rail line with several communities. And then lastly, we're going to hear from Mayor Gary Engelstadt from Bradley Beach, who is going to talk about the project that we're working on in Monmouth County with Asbury, Bradley Beach, and Neptune. I think the best way to describe what we're working on is this diagram, which really uses land use and transportation at the core and talks about the interconnectedness of all the other aspects of life. This is really the essence of what the US HUD program is all about. The connectedness, the sustainability, and the opportunities that we have for workforce, for mobility, and for quality of life, and all the enhancements that can go along with that as long as we're working on this together. But I think one of the most important things that I wanted to bring to your attention before we dive into the different projects are some of the lessons that we're learning as part of this local demonstration project effort. There's a lot of intermunicipal cooperation, and that little interruption that we had in October called Sandy really showed that everybody really can work together and really can do it in a way that's almost unprecedented. And I'm really, in a strange way, grateful that that happened in many ways, because it showed that you have to just disregard the boundaries and really work on what's important, which is safety, people's welfare, and opportunity. I think the other thing that's important is that we are really looking at a series of word-of-mouth activities to let people know what's happening. There are very traditional means of getting out to people that we all know and love. We have meetings, we have forums, there are some technological advances that we use, but really in many instances, and I think the Monmouth County project is a good example, we really got on the street and talked to the community-based organizations who talked to the neighborhood people that they work with. And that was how we got a terrific response to what we were doing. And I think the other thing is that wins can take many forms. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's desire is met, but what it does mean is that we have a clearer understanding of what people are looking for and what they're trying to accomplish at their level, so that informs the creation of this regional plan.
The section of 202 that's being studied is a really critical corridor, and it runs between Somerville in Somerset County and Flemington in Hunterdon County. And this corridor, much like many corridors, but certainly this corridor, really suffers from a huge amount of traffic congestion. It suffers from that congestion based upon really what has been 20 or 30 years of growth through the region. It suffers from that region, and I might add that that highway also then connects down into Pennsylvania. And so as we've had this movement into Bucks County, into Pensy, we're still getting that ingress into Jersey. It suffers because there has not been an awful lot of land planning coordination. What you see in front of you is the 202 corridor. This is the region that's being studied. Essentially, this is going to encompass 7 municipalities ranging in Hunterdon, and that's going to take you from Raritan Township and Flemington Borough and Reddington Township. Going to go into Somerset County and Branchburg. We've got Bridgewater. We've got, I think there's a Raritan Township up here. We've got Somerville, touched just a little bit. And each of those municipalities basically connect, or the road actually connects each of these municipalities. And for years, and I can speak about this region here, for years what was happening in Flemington was not necessarily discussed with Raritan Township. What was happening in Raritan Township did not discuss with Reddington, and on, okay? And so, 4 years, and having served on a planning board for a period of time when I was mayor, okay, you worked within your borders. You looked at what was happening within your borders. You zoned based upon what was within your borders, and it really didn't matter what was going on outside of your borders. And the net impact along the way is that each of these municipalities has grown. Each of them has had their own impact within their borders, but most importantly, each of them has had an impact on what is now this transportation artery that runs through there, independent of each other. And I'm really happy to tell you that Every one of these towns that borders this road has taken a seat at the table, and they are active participants, and it is the beginning of what needs to happen. And that is that in order to solve this problem, it's not going to be solved by any one of these individual municipalities. It's not going to be solved by either of the two counties. It is only going to be solved when we put the transportation partners together, we put all of these folks together, we start to get the data we need, and we develop a history of how we got where we are. I'm off script, by the way. Okay, and we develop not only that, but we also then develop a plan moving forward as to what the projections are within the region and how to look at land use and how to look at zoning and how to make proper predictions so that when you do finally come to a conclusion with what to do with this, you do it right, you do it one time. So in concrete terms, what are we doing? We're going to identify opportunities along the corridor for redevelopment. Redevelopment, by the way, does not mean we have to build new. Redevelop means look at some of your existing assets and figure out what you're going to do with them. One particular goal, of course, is to cluster future development and growth along the corridor in a pattern that can support enhanced transit service. We have to go back to municipalities and we have to look at them and make them understand that we can develop zoning that both protects land, preserves open space, and at the same time gives us the type of densities, good densities, that will support a transportation system being put into place. We need to encourage the towns and the counties to work together. And if we do that, we're going to improve the overall transit service along the corridor. We also need to help towns to align their local land use policies so that they are cohesive, something that has not happened in a very long time.
In terms of our particular project, what East Orange and Newark share is Interstate 280. And Interstate 280 caused a problem in our communities many, many years ago. It divided the north part of the city from the southern part of the city. So it really runs through the middle of our towns. In addition to 280, we have what is known as Freeway Drive, both on the east and the west side. And Freeway Drive is turned into kind of a additional highway. And we're going to talk about some of the problems that that presents for us as planners, as we think about land use, as we think about our neighborhoods, and as we think about transit-oriented development. Okay, so there are a lot of streets that run north and south over 280, and they're pretty important in terms of getting people up to our main street up here, as well as down here in East Orange. There's also Central Avenue, which is one of the main retail corridors. And so you'll see this activity occurring. One of our important partners has been the New Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. And they helped us to do a study and an analysis of Freeway Drive. And unfortunately, East Orange has the reputation of having, being one of the 5 worst communities for traffic accidents. And those traffic accidents are primarily occurring on Freeway Drive east and west. Since 2003, we've had 13 fatalities along that corridor. We've also had over 70 vehicle and pedestrian injuries along that particular corridor. So it is a dangerous corridor, and we do want to improve and enhance the safety as people try to get access to services, to transportation. That's why they're crossing over the highway, trying to get to transportation, trying to get to retail services, trying to get to civic buildings, federal buildings as well, and county buildings and state buildings. So it's very important that we begin to address Interstate 280.
There is very little regional thought in these small, short towns. I was shocked to see it when I asked my predecessor, well, how often did you meet with the mayor of Avon, the mayor of Neptune City, the mayor of Neptune? None. At the same time, our cops are talking to each other, our public works are talking to each other, our school boards are talking to each other, but elected officials, we are and hopefully will not be too much longer in incredible silos. You're going to see a road in a few minutes that, you know, it's a 2-lane road. It might as well be the Garden State Parkway when it comes to towns working together. So we are very receptive to the message that Vivian and her group brought to us, because there's some new economic realities happening in these small towns. And that is, you know, we're fully built out. And I think what this process did, it opened our mind to the fact that, well, there is life beyond Memorial Drive. There is life on the other side of the Avon border, the other side of Sylvan Lake, the other side of Fletcher Lake. It's almost embarrassing to stand here and tell you how much communication does not take place between these two towns. When Vivian and her group said, no, it's a good thing that you come in a room together and talk, it was an eye-opener for us. One of the neat ideas you talked to me about was, hey, look at your borough hall. We have a borough hall with a police station and a senior center and a big parking lot. She said, what if you just picked that up and moved it down the street to that empty lot, and then this prime real estate right here next to your train station became available for development? Right. I said, wow, that's, you know, I never thought about that. And so what this partnership has done is opened our eyes. It's also got us over that moat next to Neptune, or that moat next to Asbury Park, and realized that we do need to do this on a regional basis. There's a lot of pressure from the governor's office to say, look, if you guys don't run your towns more efficiently, then we're going to walk in and say, you're not Avon and Bradley Beach anymore, you're Avon Beach. You got to consolidate. And I know I've been all over the planet here, but I really wanted to talk about my experience, the perspective, how grateful we are to Vivian and her group for forcing us into that room, because we're starting to make real progress, and I'm excited about Bradley Beach's future. Thank you.